But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in store, and exclusive access to sold out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It's good to be alone.
All right, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's the podcast where I speak to bands and artists about what gets them going through the day, some old stories of side hustles, and how they've been able to make it work in a time that playing music feels like it might be the hardest that it's ever been. On today's episode, we got Lindsay Jordan of Snail. This Friday, the Valentine demos come out, and you can order that now. Some of these songs are so close to the bone. She says on here how she was crying on some of them, which is just really open. I think that the way I received that is that what an incredibly open thing that kind of Lindsay's given herself permission to do. That's something. That's really something there. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please subscribe to the show to know when future episodes come out. Right now on the immediate list is Emily Haynes from Metric, coming up this Thursday. Then Jelani Blackman, Baby Queen, and loads more. So if you want to find out when those episodes come, click subscribe. And if you'd like to leave a rating or a review, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. 2000 Trees Festival next July has just announced their huge lineup, just the first bit of their mega lineup. I love 2000 Trees. I'm going every year, and they're back as of today, announcing headliners the Gaslight Anthem, as well as loads of other incredible bands. Manchester Orchestra, Hot Mulligan, Boston Manor, The Mysterines, Gouge Away, Lambrini Girls, Michael Sarah Palin, brilliant name, gonna go listen to them immediately after this. Snake Eyes, so many great bands on this just first announcement at 2000 Trees 2024. Tickets are available now at 2000trees.co.uk/tickets with a mad 30% off up until the end of the year. Plus, if you change your mind, there's an option for no questions asked refunds up until the very end of the year. So now is the best time to get your tickets for 2024, 2000 Trees 2024. They're the cheapest they'll be all year, and they're also available via an installment plan for less than 20 quid a month. Some ticket types, including VIP and 4-day tickets, are currently sold out. If you're one of those people that want to send it and go for the 4-day week, word is that there's going to be a super limited amount extra on sale at 10 a.m. this Friday, 3rd of November. So make sure you head to 2000trees.co.uk/tickets and either grab your tickets now or jump on the DICE waiting list to get notified when tickets become available. 2000 Trees 24, baby, is back. Before we get into the episode, I'm going to speak with Rebecca from the band Eka, who's also a brand ambassador for Ampolo, which is a practice at home app. It's getting to the end of wedding season, so if there's anyone out there who's been playing in a wedding band, about to play in a wedding band, and needs to get their chops up on a Paul McCartney bass line where he doesn't play the same thing twice, Ampolo is the app for you.
The one wedding I played as a larger band, I remember I actually messed up my Spotify account because of it. Ampolo would have been a lifesaver.
Yeah, you could hear it back, hear yourself play it, and that probably has, that definitely has that kind of subconscious impact of being like, yeah, I can do that. If I did it then, I can do it again now.
Exactly, yeah. You're not having to run over to your laptop the whole time, set up a new recording channel, all that kind of stuff. That's
Ampolo. It's free. You can download it from the App Store now. Happy practicing. All right, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs. Here's Lindsay Jordan of Snail Mail. 101 Part-Time Jobs.
It's really, I get in my head about it in such a different way every time it comes to making new music, because it is about productivity and a timeline. But at the same time, if you get too focused on the productivity and the timeline, it can kind of take you out of what you're actually doing. And people like the music that people like, first of all, having a first record that did well. It was just knowing that people liked a record that I made while I was in high school, and it was just for fun. And then making a second was a real head fuck, because it was just okay, well now I have resources and time, which is crazy.
Time is the biggest thing, isn't it?
It's crazy. Well, yeah, and I'm not great at writing while on tour. So I feel it's all about just centering myself and sitting down and having the intention to make something good and trying to enjoy it, I guess.
It's songs are moments, right?
Yeah, totally.
And how do you design a moment? It doesn't, that's not life.
Yeah, you can't. I firmly believe that you can't and still make good music. If you're just synthesizing music, at least for me personally, it doesn't come out great.
Getting into that moment, finding that moment. What have you found? Any particular things? I don't know. Sounds silly, right? But reading or watching movies, things that for sure are going to put you in that kind of space where you feel you're that one person. There's only one of you,
Totally. Reading and movies are both big for me, just because it's not directly you're not listening to music that you're trying to rip off of, or you're not listening to music for direct inspiration. I feel it's I found that if I'm just sitting on my couch watching something that I really like visually or something, and I sort of just pretend I'm scoring it, or just kind of, I think if I keep my head on what's going on in the movie and look at it, I feel I come up with better stuff, just because I'm not putting all of my focus on just trying to power through writing a song. So I've been doing that a lot, and reading too. I mean, it's hard. Lately I've been like trying to invest more in getting into poetry, just because I'm sort of trying to switch lyrical styles, or like grow lyrically. And I feel like you can't do that without like intention. But I find poetry really hard, because it feels like a lot of the time it's just it can be like really abstract, or like personally I have a really hard time like getting to the bottom of what the fuck anyone's ever talking about, or like it'll be like about the Civil War or something, or like but
so that's the place you're in now, kind of like thinking about your lyrics. It's, you talk about like that's a conscious effort. That's like a mechanism, reading poetry. And I know exactly what you mean. We did all World War II poetry in school, and I loved it. I loved the colors. I loved the kind of, you could smell it. You could kind of there's all, you could smell the fucking dirt. Without sounding. And but there are lots of lines that I'm like, I read them and I can't take it in. I read it again, I can't take it in. When you get to the bottom of a page of a book and you got to go to the start of the page again because you realize you didn't take it in.
Totally. I mean, I feel like that with poetry, like so much more than with, I feel like that with everything, but sometimes I feel like when I'm reading fiction, I come up with better imagery and stuff, and like ideas and stuff that gets the cogs moving than poetry, even though poetry feels directly like you're reading somebody's lyrics. Cause it's just like, I have like a David Berman poem book, which has been really helpful for me.
I didn't know that existed. I never heard of that.
Yeah, it's called Actual Air. It's really cool.
Write that down.
You should. But then I have like a Leonard Cohen poem book, which is also really helpful. Yeah. But then I have like some T.S. Eliot stuff. I have like a bunch of stuff that has never gotten me anywhere, like in my mind lyrically, because it's just too heady, and it's just too like it can be too narrative, or it can be too like nothing that I can wrap my head around.
But you have to try, right? There's like, I think it's funny how, you try a bunch of stuff and it's maybe the thing that you think is going to work doesn't, and the other way around. It's like you find some magic in a place that you didn't think you were going to find it.
Totally. That's the absolute best. I mean, I even feel like you can find that in just like looking at stuff sometimes. Like, I feel like I've been really obsessed with Greg Araki lately, like the director, and his movies. Just I could sit there with them on silent, and I feel like inspired. Which is I don't know. I only sort of just started liking his stuff. 4 movies in, I feel like I have like a song and a half that I've come up with just like sitting there.
Yeah, hell yeah. I feel really inspired by chatting to people. Like, that sounds kind of like so arbitrary or so right. But I mean, like, I went through a period of going to the pub quite a lot in the afternoon, and I kind of stopped because, when you had the same conversation the 5th time in a row in like 2 weeks. But, kind of sitting down in like waiting room chat. It's kind of like use your imagination. Yes, it's kind of small talk, but if you can use your imagination to make that kind of wider and broader, and like it's almost like opening yourself up to the world, I think.
For sure. And it's funny that you say that, because I am very like reclusive when I go out to bars by myself and stuff. Like just the other night I was trying to go to get like some Guinness at this like Irish pub, and I had my notebook, I had a book. Yeah, well, let's go. That's my favorite beer.
Yeah, it's good.
And I had my headphones on, and I was just like really not wanting to talk to anybody. And this guy sat down next to me, and he was being so annoying that I had to leave. And he like, you have your headphones in, like obviously you don't want to talk. And he was like being like trying to like talk to me about slasher movies, but just didn't know anything about them, which is like, that's just like, horror is like my number one thing. And he just kept on being like, well, like I was naming, he's like, name this many, this, that, like your absolute worst nightmare when you're just trying to chill. And I was naming so many, and because he had never heard of any of them, he was like, you don't know anything about horror movies. Like, you want to know a real slasher movie? Halloween. I was like, yeah, for sure. But like, whatever. I ended up having to leave because I was just like, yeah, I came here to write. And it's like, hey, but I really like public spaces, being alone in a bar or a restaurant or a coffee shop or something. But the idea that someone might try to talk to me or something when I'm in the zone is like enough for me to never leave my house, because I just like,
that's so sad. That's sad, because you fucking wish that's other people fucking putting their thumb on you, like you want to go out and see stuff.
Right. Or like someone on, like, even that same night, someone was just like, "Oh, what are you reading?" I was like, "Huh?"
Like,
She was like,
fuck
"What are
off.
you reading?" And I was like, "Oh, it's like a John Waters book." And she looked at me so blank. She was like, and I was like, "You know John Waters?" And she was like, "Obviously, I fucking know fucking John Waters. Who the fuck doesn't know John Waters? I've seen him." I was like, okay. Like,
Do you think it's an American thing? Like, you know, the way that Americans can be a bit extra, a bit like that?
feel like it just depends. I don't know. I feel like it depends on like the region, but I also feel like maybe the pub is more of a sacred space, not in America, because I don't know. I definitely feel like I don't find myself getting super approached when I'm in the UK, but I also feel like it just depends where I am. Like if it's like a bar near the venue, then absolutely. But like, I don't really know.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
101.
Hey, listening to these Valentine demos, they it made me think of those songs talking about poetry, because the lyrics obviously are going to be all so much in front of you, you know, on those demos. Releasing those songs now, is it like, you know, you're thinking about it, you're looking at the artwork, you're probably re-going over some of those lyrics and some of those moments. What's it like kind of going back in time a bit? Is that quite like, is it, you know, have you got a different perspective on things? Do you feel differently about some of the stuff you were writing about?
Yeah, I mean, massively. I listened to it for the first time yesterday, like the vinyl record. I had never heard it like mastered or the sequencing or anything, and kind of came up with the sequencing without like really testing it out. Some of those demos, like I was a little scared to go back and listen to, and there is like a few things that I definitely should have omitted that I did on the record for a reason, like names and stuff that I just didn't think about, because when I submitted the files, I feel like I was like busy and stuff, and I was listening last night and I was like, ooh, there's like a few things that I definitely just kind of forgot about, and they're like really intense, but it's also like a funny melodrama to a lot of the lyrics, because I had to like sift through like I had like piles and piles and piles of lyrics for every single one of those songs. Automate had like 7 different renditions. Like the lyrics are super different because I just like tend to, like, I'm a perfectionist in like a medical way almost, where like I redo everything a million times over. And yeah, there's definitely like some melodrama on there that I purposely cut out just because I was like, this is too much for anyone. I'm absolutely crying on one of the tracks. I think I'm crying on Automate and Adore You. It was like fresh out of a breakup, like going through a bunch of really crazy shit that like I don't really want to be like giving everyone the full, you know, but if you listen to it, you could figure some stuff out, I'm sure. And it's funny and it's weird because I feel like a lot of my songwriting, especially at that time, but like honestly forever, has just been like, I've been, you know, I'm 24 now. I started Snail when I was 15, which is crazy. And like, I had to get over like a strong teenager victim complex that I think like people just tend to, you know, have before they become adults. And like there was a lot of stuff where I felt like I genuinely was the victim, but also like I'm centering myself in these lyrics in a way that like feels really outside of myself now. Like and there's parts of me love it because I'm like, oh my God, this drama is just insane. Like I can't even begin to feel on that level anymore. Yeah. Where I felt like the world was against me, and like this girl and that girl, like they all hated me because it was because of them, like not because of me. Yeah. And like, you know, just like, oh, like who would ever cheat on me? I'm an angel, like all this shit where it's just like, yeah, I just look back now and I'm like, well, you're also an asshole and an idiot. So, you know, like it's funny. I've like never felt less like a victim than I do at the ripe age of 24. And so like writing lyrics has been actually pretty hard because I don't want to like, I really hate like the whole sad girl thing. Like I felt like just was like a sad person that never meant to like end up in a genre. And it's also like it's never been intentional. It's just been like the music that speaks to me and like what I'm writing about. And like, I really want to make sure that I don't just like go like put myself into like this hole because it's like kind of easy to maintain. Like I could keep writing like really sad lyrics just cause, but like Sufjan didn't make a Carrie and Lowell twice. You know what I mean? So it's like, I genuinely think like right now for me, it's about like growing as a lyricist and like expanding my idea of what lyrics even are.
Yeah. And that idea of just trying to stay honest, like without thinking, okay, what are people going to make of this? What are people going to write about this? You know, you don't want to implicate yourself or, you know, you don't want to step into anything bad, but you want to like, if we've got kind of one duty in this life, it is to be like ourselves, right? And that is like, you know, I do believe that everyone has like an artist in them, you know, whether you're a painter or you're a writer. And I think that that's such a, for me anyway, I mean, even like doing this podcast for me, I feel is kind of like my art, because I feel like talking and communication is my like, you know, is my tool or whatever.
Totally.
And I feel better for it. And I think everyone does something, you know, there are ways to feel better while doing like art or making art or being creative. And as much as you can do that without kind of hindering yourself or encumbering yourself with any kind of restrictions that we build in our minds, like the better.
I mean, that is really hard too. I feel like it's really hard. Like you definitely think it's impossible not to think about what's going to happen when it comes out. Like, it's like somebody's going to think like you're being nasty to them, or like my parents are going to hear some line about like doing drugs or something and have something to say to me, or like anything that's even remotely sexual. I like wouldn't even want to think about like my mom and dad just being like, oh, like, you know, just stuff like there's just a million. Yeah. And like, even in my head right now, I'm like, well, I don't want people to think I just feel bad for myself. But then I'm like, I mean, do I? Like, I don't know. There's just, and I do think like that is just human. And it's like, I think it's an important part of the process to like filter that out. But I don't know. There's a balance. Like, you got to protect yourself.
So, yeah,
I don't know.
This is it. Yeah, and like we're all growing. Like no matter like whether you're 50 or 15, you're all kind of, everyone's growing in that time of their life and working things out. And you know, a big part of 101 part-time jobs is about making mistakes and falling flat on your face 5 times before something good happens.
Totally. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, I got fired from my frozen yogurt job when I was a teenager. So that.
Hell yeah! Paint us the picture. Throw me the Froyo.
Yeah. So I worked at the outdoor venue Meriwether Post Pavilion of Animal Collective fame for like from the age of 14 to 17, 18 maybe, doing event staff and like you know, taking tickets, checking bags, like watching doors, like checking passes, whatever. So I got to see like shows all the time. Then like that was mainly active in the spring and the summer. So I was like, okay, I need to get another job. I've always had jobs. And I got this yogurt job and I absolutely loved it. But I honestly feel like a lot of the girls that I worked with were like bitches. Like I felt like very unwelcome there, honestly. And I was in the process of dyeing my hair blonde, and at a certain point it was bright orange. And I think that was an issue because they only hired like good looking athletic type girls. And I was like, not looking good or athletic, and I was athletic, but like they wouldn't have known that. And I was like, all right, like I really, you know, I was qualified. I did great in the interview. I love talking to old people. I'm a good conversationalist, so It was perfect. Old people always come in there. People are excited to get their ice cream, you know, whatever. I was sneaking toppings left and right, just like loving my life. I loved that job. And then one day, I worked with this girl. It was the day that Trump got elected, and so I had only been working there for like maybe like 4 months or something, and there was still tasks I didn't know how to do. So I was still like sort of not in training, but like I had to let the other girl lead the way often. And so this day, it was winter, no one was coming in, and Donald Trump got elected, and I was working with this girl who I had never worked with before. My hair looked stupid as hell. I looked nothing like any of the girls working. And I was like, basically I was like, so what can I do? I ran out of tasks. So I asked her, didn't know how to toast coconut. I didn't know what to do with the pineapple. There was a bunch of shit. Like I'd cleaned, I'd done everything. And she was like, you're good. Nothing. And I was like, really? Nothing? And she was like, yeah, just chill. So I sat in the back and I was reading the Stephen King book, Gerald's Game. It kind of looked like a weird BDSM cover. There's a lot of factors here going on. And
love it.
I kept on being like, because this girl seemed busy. I kept on being like, so is there anything I can do? And she's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I was sitting with her and I was like, shitty day, right? Shitty day. Because like Donald Trump got elected and she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, shitty day. I don't know. Like, and she was like, I don't get how it's shitty. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I just assumed. My bad. We didn't talk for the whole rest of the day. I never got asked to work again. And I called the boss and he was like, yeah, like whatever her name was, probably something stupid, like McKaylee or something. She's like, McKaylee said you refused to work. So, like my girlfriend's coming home. And he's like, my girlfriend's coming home from college. So like, I'm going to give her your shifts. And I was just like, I was crying. I loved that job. And I was just like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. And he was like, she's been working for me for 3 years. Who am I supposed to trust? And I was like, that's fair. All right. That's like, bullshit. Thank you. I just, if I ever see any of those people again, it's on site.
What does on site mean?
It just means they're about to get their ass beat.
101, 101, 101, 101. I think there's the movie version of Gerald's Game.
Yeah, I saw that. It's not my favorite.
I can't remember it at all. But I
remember the figure. There's like that big figure, like the big scary guy. The big like Frankenstein looking guy.
We watched this one recently and it's kind of a, don't want to like sort of give too much away, but basically there's this massive woman with like giant breasts and she's like milking these adults.
Yo.
I've forgotten the name of it. I got to.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Oh, Barbarian. You're talking about Barbarian? Yeah.
So.
Yo, when I was house hunting, my realtor, who's awesome, he's in a band, he's super cool. I was just like in his car with him because I'd never been here. I had never been to where I moved, and I was talking to him for so long, and I was like, bro, first of all, have you ever seen Barbarian? Because I feel like it's a prerequisite for your job. Yes. And he had no idea what I was talking about. And we were going into all these crawl spaces and shit. And I was like, you need to see Barbarian before you continue. Because I'm sure that's on a lot of home buyers' minds.
Damn, every now and then there's something that comes up on Reddit and it's like, oh, this is a New York City flat. And then there was like a 3-room apartment that was attached that no one ever knew of. And someone had been living there, kind of squatting there, living in filth. You know, that stuff is so fascinating.
It is it's terrifying. It is terrifying.
Hey, can I tell you a ghost story?
Please.
So my parents, they're from like northwest London, kind of didn't have gardens growing up. So as soon as they made enough money, they were like, let's get the biggest place we could get. So my dad became like a property lawyer, mum's a writer. And so like kept on like buying somewhere, flipping it, always making money. And so they moved us out to like a farm. So we're in a farm in the middle of nowhere, up this giant hill. There's like cattle grates, so the horses couldn't get out. Like we lived on the farm. So we lived in this huge, huge house, right? I was 7 years old. I was getting up to go for a piss. And I was at that age where I'm like, okay, I'll go back into my parents' bed afterwards.
Yeah.
So I remember like that toasty feel, you know, and I was pulling up the duvet. And I saw this blue lady walk from right to left. And the closest I can think of it is, or like explain it, is Star Wars hologram. Yeah. It was like that. Like she was in a nightgown. I can't remember the color of her hair. Anyway, she's walking from right to left. My older brother and sister would always hear stuff. Like my sister would hear hooves of horses at night. My brother would hear like rats in the walls and see shadows. And in the morning, he'd be like, hey, Lucy, to my sister, hey, Lucy, like, what were you up? You know, why were you up so late last night? And she was like, I wasn't, you know, I went straight to sleep. Right. So years later, about 5 years later, we'd moved out and my parents had sold it to kids' parents who also went to our school. So they kind of had like a connect. Like it was in those days where at school, the parents would get like a phone number book for the other parents. I feel like that's a really old school thing. Maybe.
Yeah, totally. I remember like directory.
Exactly. It's like a parent directory. That's the only way I ever got in trouble. Fuck those directories. Other parents.
Fuck those things. Yeah, definitely fuck those things.
Anyway, so we go and his mother rings like up my mom. This is years later. And like my mom just isn't the kind of person to kind of bullshit or make things up. She was like, I just got off the phone today with the people who bought our old house. I was like, okay. And she was like, she asked my mom, oh, has anything weird ever happened in the house? And my mom's like, no, why? And get this, they had a toddler that kept on being found, big house, 3 floors, right? Kept on finding the toddler out of the cot, past 2 baby gates, unopened, on the kitchen table on its back. and this baby's like kind of learning, developing to talk. I guess, what is that, like 3 years old, 4 years old, kind of cool. And the baby says, "Blue lady."
Oh, dude, that's one of the most cohesive ghost stories I've ever heard. Also, it literally had a conclusion. That was great.
Just because it's like, my mum wouldn't like, she's just not the kind of person to, you know what I mean? It's just so real.
Totally.
It's so real.
Oh my.
So I've been thinking about going back. It's only a few hours away, the house. I kind of want to drive up and knock on a Saturday afternoon, you know, like an innocuous kind of time, and be like, hey, I was just driving past and I used to live here, and then kind of sense whether to say it or not, you know, and also see if I feel anything.
Yeah. Or like you could break in at night.
Yeah, that would be my worst nightmare.
Yeah, for sure. You could just like do your own ghost hunt in there.
I'd be up for it. There's a guy called Danny Robbins who does a great radio show, Paranormal. It's just called Uncanny. If you get it,
cool.
It's on BBC Sound, so maybe you need like a VPN or something. But I recommend.
Got that.
Hey, thanks for letting me tell you that story.
Dude, thanks for telling. That was fun. That was crazy.
For the last 10 minutes, if that's cool. I mean, I like to hear those kind of like work fail stories. I mean, you gave a really good one about the Froyo place, but I mean, like, you know, there's a pretty prolific or like jazz musician that lives around here, and when I asked him, you know, this kind of thing, he was talking about the amount, because he plays jazz, the amount of times that he would kind of go into the wrong part of the song and kind of work it out, and the mind frame of like fucking it up live a little bit, or maybe it's like a reply all email, and it's like, you know, put your foot in it because you're replying to like a number of different people that you're working with, you know, whether it's a label or book, or I don't know. When I think it's like, hey, it is personal growth. Again, it's like realizing that fucking up is part of the process, man.
Yeah.
You know, when I say that, what does it make you think of?
Well, I had a show like not that long ago where it was a college show. I won't say which, so no one knows, because I honestly kept it pretty. Somehow, nobody in my band knew what was going on, but it's hard to get. I try to take like edibles instead of smoking weed because because of my throat. When I got surgery, they were like, stop smoking so much weed, like eat it, whatever. And so on this particular day, I got this dropper thing, and it was milliliters, and I only know milligrams. So I wasn't really doing the math. I just like, when I write music, I try to get like a little stoned because it helps me a lot. And I remember I was on the bus and I had bad cramps. I didn't want to take Advil in case I had a beer, because I feel like that's one of the only drug interactions, whatever. I think it's really bad for your liver.
Oh, it's scary as well. You know, you don't want to like knock yourself out, and you know.
Right. So I was just taking this weed, trying to get rid of my cramps, trying to like get creative, whatever. And it wasn't working. Hours and hours. I was just like drinking it out of the bottle. And then I got on stage and it started kicking in. And it was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced, because the lyrics just didn't sound like English. I was like, everything just sounded like, and I was like trying to do muscle memory, and I was doing all these like creative like stops and stuff so I could try to like catch my brain up, because my hands are fine. Like I know how to play the guitar, but the vocals, like absolute nightmare. All I could think of was like the syllables. So I'd be like, pristine, unerased. Like I was struggling so much, so I kept pretending to have coughing fits because I was like, didn't know what else to do. I was freaking out. I was shaking, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I have to get a cough drop. And I ran off the stage and I started crying. My hands were shaking so much because I was just like having a crazy panic attack. And my guitar tech like poured LaCroix on me. He was like, yeah, like he didn't know what to do. LaCroix on me. What? I was just like, oh, now my hair's wet. I was like crying, and I was like, he's like, get back out there. And I was like, okay. And I got back out there and I did the rest of the show. None of it sounded like English. The whole time I was just like, it was so scary. Never again.
Hey, Lindsay, this has been so much fun. Thanks so much. I love these kinds of stories, you know.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Fuck yeah. All right, we'll see you next time when you're in England.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, nice to meet you and nice to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to speak with you. Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah.
Have you got any opinions?
I like her. I grew up on Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Herbie Unloaded or whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh yeah.
Parent Trap, the second version.
Oh
Yeah,
my fucking God. I didn't know the Parent Trap wasn't the Olsen twins until like a few weeks ago.
The Jodie Foster one or the Lindsay Lohan one?
Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, I could see that. I could kind of see that.
Because they kind of look similar, but it's funny why you think something for years and you're like,
Hey,
oh.
Yeah. Also crazy you bring up Lindsay Lohan. You know that show Naked Attraction?
Yeah.
Me and my girlfriend have been watching it like in between unpacking boxes, and we saw this girl that looked so much like Lindsay Lohan in the face, and we were both at the same time like, Lindsay Lohan. Like nothing else about her looked like Lindsay Lohan, but her face was so Lindsay Loh.
I thought you were about to say there's Celebrity Naked Attraction.
No, oh my God, can you imagine?
There's an amazing TV show. Maybe you can get this as well. It's called Race Across the World. And
I've heard of that.
It's fucking awesome. If you want and it's proper like having dinner, chill time, just because they pick kind of 5 couple, maybe it's couples or it's 2 family members, and they drop them off somewhere pretty remote. And so the last season was from the west to east Canada, right? And they give them the amount of money that an airplane would cost to get from, for example, Vancouver to Newfoundland, right? Yeah. And then they have to race each other on like kind of boats, planes, trains, automobiles, all the rest of it. It's just so awesome. It's just,
that sounds sick as hell.
It is fucking good. And Gogglebox, which is where you're watching people watch TV and like kind of watching their reactions, that is funny as well, because they've done celebrity versions of each, but they don't work because who cares about celebrities? You want real people being interacting in that kind of real fucking sense, or all the good and the bad.
Celebrities are too like media trained.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. It's true.
Totally.
Hey.
For sure. Well, I'm gonna watch that for sure.
Fuck yeah. All right. We'll see you next time. Okay.
All right. Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you. So there was Lindsay Jordan here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to click that subscribe button or leave or rate a review if you'd really like to. And I got episodes coming up with Emily Haynes from Metric this week, and then Jelani Blackman and Baby Queen. After that, loads of great guests coming through all the time. I'm excited about it. We've also got the live episode with Bob Villan at Bush Hall in London, under the chandeliers there. If you want to come for a very special night, a one-off only type event on 12th of December, head to 101parttimejobs.com and click on the live tab and get your tickets. I've also got a newsletter at 101parttimejobs.com. You can click onto that. I think that's enough for now, though. Cheers for listening, and see you very soon.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.